After digging out this area below here, I have the layout for the kelp farm. What it will look like is if I use the kelp as diorite, there's going to be kelp growing on these two blocks and on every block above the observer. And as soon as the kelp grows to 3 blocks tall, the observer detects the kelp growing, and the piston then breaks it, sending the 2 kelp down to a water stream down below. Now, there are 3 tiers of this, so there's going to be one right here, one there, and one there. So a total of 6 tiers in the center, and to be more space efficient, I also designed this farm so that I can also have 2 tiers on either side of the center portion of the farm. So what this farm should yield is 10 tiers every block width. And it's going to be, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. It's going to be either 15 or 17 blocks long. And so that's going to yield about 150 to 170 kelp plants. That's a lot of kelp, but that is definitely plenty for becoming a renewable energy source over time. Alright, now that I explained everything, let me crack on with actually building the farm. I just completed the main portion of the kelp farm, and it just consisted of a lot of pistons and a lot of observers, but I did lay out tracks below the surface of the water. I had signs on the bottom layer to prevent water flow, so that the minecart could flow fast underneath where the drops would go. And it wraps from here, this left section, to the center section, and then over to the right section. And then there is some loss to this. It's not exactly perfect, but it does get the majority of the drops. And so far, I got like 12.5 stacks from the farm and whatever's in here, so what is that? 14.5 stacks almost, which is honestly pretty good. But now what I want to work on is the auto smelter, and I want to have the auto smelter in this area here so that the cart can wrap around this track here and go along furnaces on these blocks and then wrap back around here to then go back onto the track. I think that would be a pretty simple idea and something that I can work on right now. Alright, so I just encountered a massive problem with my setup here, is whenever the pistons actuate right there, the rails update and they think that they need to go sideways. So yeah, I need to rethink this a little bit. Okay, so I think I've got the kelp farm and the smelter for the kelp to turn into cooked kelp complete. Now, before I had a pretty complex system going. I was planning on doing like 8 furnaces and an array here where the minecart would go around them, but you know, I figured that all I really needed was just a hopper drop-off system going into a double chest, which then went into this smelter here. The reason why I'm choosing this more simple system is because really all I want is cooked kelp, and once I have a good amount of it, I will not ever need it in large quantities. I'm planning on using my super smelter system for niche materials such as smooth sandstone or smooth stone. I'm not planning on using it for large amounts of products. So as you can see, the kelp gets pistoned and it all falls through the water, and then the minecart comes around like so. Let me redo it. The minecart will come around and it'll pick up the kelp. Alright, so now I need to figure out where does the kelp actually go to. Before I was planning on... Well, one problem when doing some maintenance or just recording in this area is whenever I'm on these rails, I'm always going to knock into the minecart, and it's super annoying, but I just have to reorient it. But as I was saying, I was first thinking of having a dropper line or a water stream lead the cooked kelp all the way through here towards the end of this tunnel here, and right above the tunnel is my storage room. However, as I thought about it more, I think it would be more worthwhile. Let me actually grab this coal. Can't leave any resources unturned. But as I was saying, I think it would be more useful if I just had a building dedicated to my super smelter. In making my way back to the surface, I don't want to have the super smelter building right at this dock area. I kind of want to save this area for fish market stalls. I think it'll add a little bit more of a better transition from the river to the inland suburban area of these residential housing, and having a large building here dedicated to a super smelter, it won't translate properly from the river to the middle of the desert. So instead, I think I want to make my super smelter building, I think I want to make it right here. Having the building right here would better correspond to the residential buildings surrounding it. As you can see, I've already planned out these residential buildings and what they're going to look like. Now, between each one of them, I'm going to have little points of interest, and around the super smelter, I plan on making the super smelter building, this grand bazaar or this marketplace, and it'll really link up with these housing through tarps and trading tents. And I'm going to house some villagers here. I'm going to house the stonemasons, whoever the blast furnace guys are, and the toolsmiths. I'm going to house all three of those villager types in this area because it corresponds with what I'm doing here. I'm smelting stone and the whole smeltery setup. And I plan on building these suburban homes in the style of these buildings that I've just recently propped up here. As you can see, there are these blocky style of terracotta buildings, and I've done the same style here in this area, which is soon to be a YouTube short. Yeah, I want to start doing YouTube shorts. I know I've posted one like a really long time ago, like a few months back, but that was on the sewer system. But I want to diversify my collection of content. But as I was saying, I want to use the same concept of this blocky feel that builds on each other in a better elevated state. So at ground level, I have these buildings, then up level, I either go back a little or I just maintain with the same horizontal, as you can see. And I think using that depth both on the x-axis and on the y-axis is really beneficial. Even from a basic point of view, without any detail, you can already see so much depth here involved with the planning. You can see already right here that this building has 3 areas of depth, and then you can already see this building here in the front, and then that yellow building in the back. And I found that using this planning is really beneficial for not only planning depth, but just planning where houses can go and how they interact with each other. For instance, I have this staircase leading up to here, which I'll have a doorway, and then I plan on having a road here, and then using that road, I can then correspond a staircase with that road and implement pathways between each house quite nicely. So currently I have basically what is a glorified box shape, and obviously this isn't the prettiest looking thing in the world, but I plan on adding some depth, so you can just add whatever you want. But I'm just going along with the style that I've been building here for the past few months, and it's just adding some towers on the side. That's literally all that goes into my builds around this place. Just adding different colored terracotta towers on the side. And just like that, we have color along with some depth. And here I can even add another bit of terracotta. So, and then to bring it all together, what I could do is add sandstone. So, and then I would come back to this sandstone to texture it later. And just like that, we're adding more depth and color to our formerly boring building. So I'm just gonna do that, and I'll see where that takes me. Alright, so I've made some great progress here at the super smelter, and I've just been incorporating a lot of life into this area, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out so far. So this building was what you just saw right before this, and it's been turned into this giant building. I always wanted to build bigger. I'm not a fan of building small housing, but I'm really happy with how this turned out. And you know, I kind of turned it into this smithy, this smithing building more than anything. Most of all, I'm very proud of how I integrated the super smelter, which can kind of be a bulky build, honestly, into this build. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Obviously, this is the super smelter, and I've just done some brief interior decorating, like hanging signs. Maybe there's like orders or something. I have some armor stands that I use pistons to push into blocks, and then these are going to be the output chests from the furnaces. You can see that there's hoppers underneath here that lead into this chest, and then these minecarts are kind of hidden, which I like, because seeing minecarts in a build, it kind of takes you out of that atmosphere of like a medieval build, you know. But yeah, these minecarts, this bottom one's the fuel, and this top one is the input. All right, besides from that, outside the smithy, we have a ton of market stalls, and some of them are furnished and some of them are completely empty. I have a few ideas of what I want to do, but I just haven't gotten around to filling out some of these market stalls. On the other hand, I have decorated a few, like 3 or 4. So we have a dye and flower shop right here. We have a butcher selling meats, maybe even rotten flesh, some meat that's gone bad, and even I'm using this nether quartz here to simulate meat as a block. In this stall is a mason, you know, with brick, terracotta, end stone, and a couple crates and note blocks. In this stall, I have a leather worker with cauldrons that I'll fill up with water, and them selling leather armor and leather. I think I want to put some armor stands here as well with leather armor on them too. And then of course in this stall is where the dried kelp is going to be, and then whenever I want to smelt something, I'll just come over here, grab some dried kelp, and then put it into the fuel input. So that's kind of it from the market stall perspective, but I have made a lot of progress elsewhere. So you can see that I kind of have these orchards here, and my philosophy on basically building in Minecraft is to build with purpose. You always want to make a building that serves a purpose. I think that if you make a building purely for aesthetical purposes, after a while that will get very tiresome and kind of boring. So here I've made this orchard my birch tree farm, and I plan on doing this for the 3 non 2x2 wood types. So that's birch, acacia, and oak, because dark oak, spruce, and jungle are the 2x2 wood types. And I don't really plan on making a cherry farm, because honestly, I haven't found much use for cherry wood so far. But yeah, so this is what the birch orchard looks like, and I'm just going to walk through and then just show off all the builds. This is a house that I have to finish decorating the interior, add some windows, but the exterior is pretty much done. Here we have a dark oak lumber market stall. Here we have a hay stall, and here we have another residential housing. I don't know if you've noticed so far, but we have quite a few trader llamas here, and you know, I've been working on this for a long time, and a couple of traders have come by, and I might have killed them, but I've kept their llamas because I don't really have llamas close to me, so I might as well just keep the trader llamas. This lime wool right here is where I plan on building the final buildings of this section of housing. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I have to finish this building. So I have a few more buildings in that building. So I have around 6 or 7 buildings left to finish, which shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it's just time. In all honesty, it's just my time. So over here we have a well. I really like this design. I kind of stole it off the internet, but it's a pretty common design. But it's a well, and I think I want to use this well to connect to my sewer network. If you haven't watched my YouTube shorts on my sewers, I really encourage you do, because it'll give you a glimpse into what I plan for in the future. Over here we have the acacia orchard. So it's the same premise behind the birch tree farm, except this one is obviously not birch, it is acacia. And it's decorated a little bit differently. See, we have a little pond with a stream. And then we just have flowers and some grasses. Cool. So moving on, I'm going to show the oak orchard as well. This is the third and second to last orchard that I will be building. And this one is obviously for oak trees, but I've put some flowers here because when oak saplings develop into full-on trees, there's a 5% chance that a bee nest will spawn. These are some extra buildings that I may tear down or I may end up finishing. I still have not really decided yet, but I think I'm just going to keep them. It would be nice to have buildings on this side, orchards, and then buildings on that side. I think that would be a nice... Sorry. These mobs are... Ugh, I'm getting attacked. Living in the desert is kind of a hard time sometimes with all of these mobs, but you have to make do. The good thing with all of these finished houses is they are furnished in the inside, which means that each building has a bed. So whatever the purpose you are building for, whether it's just a plain old residential building or even a smeltery like this, you should always include some sort of purpose. And even as simple as sleeping in a bed, it really fills out the atmosphere of your city, and it feels like it's actually lived in. All right, now we've got this area squared away building wise. I think it's time to transport the kelp from the kelp farm just below us to the dried kelp market stall, and I plan on doing that with water streams and a dropper elevator that transport the kelp from down there up to this chest. And here it's just going to house dried kelp, and then I'll use this crafting table to turn that dried kelp into kelp block, which I'll then put into the input of the super smelter. Alrighty, so the kelp farm is now complete. The only thing that I have left to do is to make this market stall look a little bit better than what it does right now. Right now it looks mechanical because I've been working on it, but the mechanics behind the kelp farm is actually all done. So let me explain how it works. So before, the kelp farm is over there, obviously underground, and there's a hopper minecart which goes into droppers into a water stream. And that water stream goes up a bubble elevator right here, and then the kelp goes into that hopper right there. That raw kelp is then put into this chest, and we have 2 hoppers extracting from that chest to go into these 2 smokers. Now this little setup right here is just to ensure that there's a 50-50 split between these hoppers when they extract from the chest. And then when the smokers are all done cooking the kelp, it gets deposited into this dropper here, and then this whole system right here with the observers and the droppers is a dropper elevator. So that dropper elevator sends the dried kelp up from those hoppers down there to this chest right here, and you can see that it's slowly filling up. And then to add fuel to these smokers here, I just did a quick double chest with hoppers extracting from it, and right here is where you'll put your dried kelp blocks. So a pretty simple system here, and underground it's basically what you saw before, except instead of the minecart going directly into the smokers like I had before, the minecart now goes, so this was the setup before, the minecart now goes into this barrel, obviously with a standard minecart unloader, like so. And then that barrel is just a buffer for the minecart to stay there. And then we have a dropper extractor right there. And it just pushes the kelp down that water stream all the way to the end. And then there's a water elevator at the end of there, which then pushes it up to where we were before. So I think it's safe to say that this system before can now all be destroyed. There's really no reason for it to be there anymore. And our kelp farm is now complete. I am very happy to say that because I did build a large smeltery building for it, so I'm very happy that it works as intended. I'm just going to leave this stuff here. Alright, so the next things that I have to do is to just build and do the interiors of these remaining buildings, and then I think we should be set, and obviously decorate this market stall right here. Then when I finish those things, I think we can go into the city for one last task for the episode. Alrighty, I haven't done a Minecraft time-lapse in a good amount of time, so it feels good to be back. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really love how these builds came out. I can't wait to add some more stuff around the area in future episodes in the future. But this is what the houses look like, and they are all interior decorated, as you saw. And man, I'm starting to like interiors now. They're just so satisfying to make. I know they take so long to get the resources and to make all the materials, but at the end of the day, they're fun. It's fun to like plan out like bedrooms and kitchens and stuff like that. Especially this one. This one was my favorite. I still have these houses to do, but I'm not sure if I want to tear them down yet or change them into something different, like a larger building. So I'll have to think about what I want to do there. But these buildings over here are definitely complete. And I also made another oak orchard here, and because I'm going to be using oak for a lot of things. You can see that I'm using it for log piles. I'm using it for roofs here, and I'm also using it sometimes for windows, although the windows here I'm using spruce. Actually, inside the city, for most of the windows, I'm using oak trap doors as the windows, but I'm starting to use spruce fences as windows too. But I'm really happy with how this entire area, like around the smeltery, turned out. It definitely turned out to be a larger task than what I originally imagined, but you know, it's totally fine. I'm really happy with how everything kind of flows together in all this terrain and the lush environment. Also, there's so many llamas around here, so many traders just like spawned whenever I'm building these houses. But now that we're done with these builds and around the smelter, I think it's time that we move towards inside of the city, because I have one more build that I think I want to accomplish for today's episode. I'm switching to inside the city because I want to revamp the building of the melon and pumpkin farm. In episode 3, I built the melon and pumpkin farm, and it was essentially this 7x7 tower, and at the top I kind of decorated it with orange concrete and pumpkins to signify that it was a pumpkin and melon farm. Obviously, it is now gone, and I've replaced it with a giant building complex here, and I think it blends in much nicer than what I had here previously. So instead of a 7x7 tower, I'm actually doing something like a grocery store market. I don't really know how to describe it. I guess it would be a grocery store. But I have, currently I have 5 villagers. My 6th villager somehow died, not really sure how, but I've replaced the doors in here with iron doors, so hopefully no zombies should get in here. The melons and the pumpkins arrive from the farm in these chests here, then I use them to obviously trade with the villagers. And you can see that I have done the trading, building up a good amount of emeralds. But going inside of the farm, you can see that I have a couple layers of melon and pumpkin farm, and then I have a general water stream that has soul sand at the bottom. And you can see that there's a minecart track for each layer of the melon and pumpkin farm, and it deposits it into a dispenser, and the dispenser then dispenses the items into this water stream, and the water stream goes to where the chests were previously. So that's how the farm works. Now all I want to do now is actually just make the build look good. So here's what I'm working with. It's essentially these rectangular buildings, similar to what I did just now with these smeltery, excuse me. But yeah, it's just a giant bundle of buildings here, and I'm going to turn it into something that looks aesthetically pleasing now. One more thing, I've also just built a tavern, or not a tavern, I guess you would call it an inn. Yeah, so this building here I just built and did the interior of. I'm starting to do interiors of every build in this city, slowly working my way through, but it does take a long time. This building here is not connected to any of these that I plan on building right now. It's just a standalone residential house. But yeah, this is the inn that I was just working on. You can see there's like the concierge station, and then up here you have the rooms, and there's 2 rooms up there. Pretty close-knit interior, but a good build nonetheless. And then as you pass through this gatehouse, almost like this archway, you run into this side alley that actually opens up into this large area here. And I think I'm going to put a well here, because this is a large meeting area between multiple buildings. And then over here, I want to show that there's some work being done on the building. So I'm obviously going to decorate it a little bit more than just scaffolding and bamboo blocks, but this is what I've come up for now. When I actually work on the building right now, I think I'm going to edit this a little bit so it looks a little bit nicer. And then over here, I wanted to make something that resembled an apple tree. So here I have roses and red tulips. Yeah, red tulips, along with acacia leaves in this oak tree that I just made. So yeah, the melon and pumpkin farm has always been a sore thumb that's standed out from the rest of the buildings in this area, and I thought it was time to definitely finish it up by making the exterior a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Now I know today's episode has been a lot of building focused, but I haven't done one of these episodes in a long time, so I thought it would be appropriate to make it all about building. So let me get some materials, and I think I can start work on this build. I apologize if I had shaders on before, but I've obviously taken them off, and I am now pretty much 95% done with the pumpkin and melon farm build. You can see that I've decorated these upper towers and upper buildings, and I've also done the interior for them as well. But yeah, so I've done the interior here, and everything just sort of flows into each room, which is really nice. So we got a bedroom here, and we got an outlook with like a rose bush here. And then this is by far one of my more interesting interiors. So we have this rooftop dining area with a kitchen, a bedroom, and another bedroom over here. So as I mentioned before, I'm using oak trap doors as windows for builds on the inside of the city and sometimes on the outside, but for predominantly on the outside, I'm using spruce fences. I am almost ready to call this build complete. I just have a few other things to do, and one of them, which I'm going to work on right now, is the path. So I want to continue this path here, and there's also another Easter egg that I've laid hidden, or not exactly hidden, but I've just put here in this area, and it's actually a husk. So interestingly, this husk has been around for almost like 5 months now, like 6 months. He's kind of just been in this area, and he got trapped like under the road, and he actually got trapped on top of this stripped piece of wood. And so I thought it would be nice to kind of celebrate that fact, and as a sign of remembrance to put him somewhere in the build, and I chose him to stick him in the tree. I thought it's pretty funny, have a husk in the tree. So yeah, just a little Easter egg that I laid somewhat hidden here in this area. All right, now I just need some spruce stairs and slabs, and while I'm walking through here, I've also worked on this scaffolding area, and I've added some grindstone. Like I said, I would like some crane, something to simulate cranes and hoisting with the chain. So here we have some grindstones that this one's hoisting up some cargo, and this one is holding up some andesite. The good thing about this scaffolding technique that I've done is, so I can't really add windows here, and the reason for that is because, well, it goes directly into the melon and pumpkin farm. So the way around that I thought of to make this area not seem so boring and flat is to just add scaffolding and look like it's being worked on construction wise. And it definitely works. It definitely makes the place more interesting. That looks good. And I think that's all I'm going to do for that side of the path. And I'm just going to just go around the tree, because I think I have a different idea of having a sandstone path for this alley over here. I'm just going to leave that be for right now. Alright, so now that pathway is all done, we have one last thing to do, and it is this boring blue stained hardened clay side right here. And I think what I'm just going to do is just add some leaves to it. Simple as that. I just want my birch leaves. Is that all the birch leaves I have? I guess it could be fine for now. But if I run out, I'll have to go fetch some. Yeah, so basically all I'm gonna do is continue the path here. Maybe add some gravel here. Yeah, all of this is going to be converted into the path, to the coarse dirt and gravel. And we'll cut it off there because I think I want this area to be sandstone road then. Alright, and then I want to add birch leaves, like I said. So we'll do something like here. It's always awkward to build on camera because I always get self-conscious that I'm going to do something that looks embarrassing. But I think it's genuine Minecraft at the end of the day, so it's always nice to have that unfiltered, unrecorded, unedited footage. Yeah, we're gonna add something like that, and then obviously we're gonna come back and add some vines. But so one fact about birch leaves is they don't follow the biome color change. So you can see that the birch leaves stay green, although we're in a desert biome. While all of the other leaves, except for flowering azalea, change. I got the flower pots, so here I'm just gonna add some vines, and the flower pot is going to be, because I want to add some color to like the bush, to the bushes. So I think I'm going to add some azure bluets and oxeye daisies. So I'm going to add some white flowers to the vines. I'll do vines there, vines covering it all. The nice thing about the vines is I can climb up them, or so I thought. so they're not the most painful thing to build with. And that is all now detailed. So that's just a lazy man's way to detail a wall if there's like really nothing else to do, because the problem with this wall is right behind it is the farm, so I can't really add any windows. So it's a similar trick to what I did with the scaffolding on the other side. It's just doing it with vines. So tricks like that really can help you build faster without sacrificing any detail. But now I'm certain that this build and this melon and pumpkin farm is 100% complete. I'm very happy with the way that it turned out, and one moment please, I want to see this in shaders. And that's what it looks like in shaders. So yeah, a really nice build. And let me fly up somewhere. Let's fly up on here. This building I'm going to tear down soon. But yeah, really nice. It all like came together here for this build inside of the city. Really nice way to end off this episode. So this was my first episode in a very long time, and it was very building heavy. Not a lot of technical stuff, except for the super smelter and somewhat of the farm. But you have to understand that some episodes are going to have to be different from others based on what is needed at the time. So I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. I really appreciate it, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.